Audio is breaking.
You can still hear me?
Yeah, I'm able to hear you perfectly fine that way.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So every art form ultimately is trying to create something that people remember for generations. And I don't know about you, but my favorite filmmaker is Stanley Kubrick. And even today, like one of the movies he created is magnificent. It's called 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yes.
And it is such a good movie. And even today, if you watch it, it holds you and it gives you a feeling of what could be in the future. And
Yes.
likewise, if you look to up to magicians, Harry Houdini, even today people remember his name, even though
Yes. He's
even
no longer
though
with us.
he's no longer with us, people remember because of the kind of legend he's created
Right.
among magicians, among normal people. So I mean, that's the kind of aim ultimately that every artist is aiming for. My personal quest and what I wonder about is, in today's day and age, is it even valid? Like
Right.
trying to create a persona or an art that can last for generations in a world where your attention span is like 5 seconds or 10
Precisely.
seconds,
Precisely.
and you want a YouTube video and you want constantly more and more YouTube videos. So how do you create art that lasts for generations in a world where every week you want something new? And if you
Yes.
want something new, the artist would just keep creating these dopamine giving short
It's
time span pieces of
yes.
art. And he
Yes.
will never have the time to create something that lasts for generations, because ultimately you need time to create something like that. And so
Yeah.
that's the question that I was thinking throughout this pandemic, and it gave me a lot of time to think through. I don't even know that I have the answer right now, but I fundamentally believe that we can create systems where artists are enabled to maybe create art that lasts a lifetime. And definitely, like YouTube and all of these platforms are not the solution for it, because all the art that is on YouTube is maybe has a time horizon of like a month, not more than that.
I would actually present a counter argument here because if you look at certain artists on YouTube itself, they have also created evergreen art. So, for example, there is Alan Green. Joe Rogan has been able to do it successfully. Even if he actually passes away, in a decade or so, may God, rest his soul. But the art that he has created, the conversations, the intriguing conversations that he has had with all these, some variety of entrepreneurs, subject matter
So
experts, and friends.
so Joe Rogan's art form is an art form that actually evolved on YouTube. Before
Yes,
YouTube, you couldn't have a podcast, a video podcast reaching millions of people. So the art forms that actually got established on YouTube,
yes,
like podcasts, like I would say, I don't know, streaming game reactions, something that Twitch and YouTube started, something what Mr. Beast does, which
yes,
every week he's doing something crazier and crazier. These are the new art forms of today's generation, and
precisely.
they people will be able to create a lot of things on it. But the older art forms, whether it's movies, whether it's magic tricks, all of those things which were created before them, before even these platforms came on, could you present them on YouTube in the same way? I don't think so. Like, we would have to get more creative as to how
Yes,
to present these art forms, because fundamentally, if even if you look at Joe Rogan's comedy,
yes,
he used his comedic talent to become a great podcast host because people loved him and he had all of these fan following behind him. He was funny and he was curious and all of that, and he was able to use it to create another art form that could last on this new sort of platform. But his older art form, which was comedy, he still does it in the conventional way, where he would
yes,
release a special every 2 years.
yes,
So
yes,
the question is, if you're on these platforms, do you change yourself and become become a podcast host or become something else, which also becomes your extension of your personality? I saw your interview with Prakhar K. Pravachan, and the kind of the way he evolved himself
yes.
from hosting one kind of videos. And I used to listen to his older videos, PG Radio and
PG
stuff like that.
radio. Yeah.
And when he started doing the other thing, he actually lost me as a viewer. Not anything personal,
Yeah,
but
no,
just
no.
something like, I enjoyed the earlier intellectual conversations, but I understand why he did that. And so it's always fascinating where an artist is going and what kind of uh, audience and what kind of things he's choosing to say. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So, to bring up that point with my conversation with Prakhar, he said when one very particular thing, that once you create a classy content and you create a massy content, you need to create 90% of your content for the massy content so that you can deliver 10% of the classy content for the old viewer that is watching you. That is what, even I'm trying to actually juggle with a lot. I want to create deep, meaningful, engaging conversations. But
Hmm.
sometimes, a lot of people ask me that, they say that make shorter videos because they are looking for small dopamine hits. And I'm saying, I can't do that. I'm an analyst by heart. I think very analytically, and I cannot provide you that, one short answer. Yeah, maybe in the future, somebody, that works with me might actually create that short form content. But for me, it's really difficult to even think through that because I need to separate the wheat from the chaff to actually bring upon that art form of whatever I'm doing, be it podcast, be it my analysis videos, be it some kind of informatics show that I'm doing. So that is what, I am also very much fascinated by.
Right. Yeah, it's really interesting. I think everyone's what Prakhar is trying to say by saying you have to create 90% and 10%, he's trying to basically say, if I broaden it out, that you have to find your own business model. Basically,
Yes.
if
Yes.
you want to survive as an artist, you have to figure out how that business model works. And Prakhar is primarily a YouTuber first, and then he started selling courses and doing stuff on top of that. For me, the business model is different. I'm a live performer first, so a lot of the business actually comes from live performances. So I don't have to be a YouTuber. I YouTube is something extra on top of it that I might want to do. So it's interesting how people come up with different business models and how they create their own. I really look up to Veer Das in this because I
Okay.
think he has stayed classy without ever going massy, and he has found his own audience, whether it's in US or whichever country he wants to, because he understood that the kind of comedy he wants to do is a little bit more evolved, and not a lot of people in, and I'm not blaming people in India, but it's just the kind of resources and the access to comedy that we have had. It will take a lot more time for us to evolve to the standards where Vidas is trying to take comedy to. And I think
Precisely.
it's the same with magic. I've had exposure as a kid to David Blaine, Darren Brown. Most people in India would have had exposure to K Lal or PC Sarkar or all of these magicians who used to perform in melas. So the kind of standards that they are thinking through is very different. And I introduce something which is up here. You have to go through the ladder. If
Exactly. Exactly.
if someone who has just seen Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum in their life, and I show them 2001: A Space Odyssey or a movie like that, they will
Inception.
not be able to sit through the movie. It's
Yes. Yes.
impossible. So now the question is, do I want to take the responsibility of taking them step by step to that, or should I just present this and let people reach over here? And my answer is, I've tried in multiple times. I've tried creating reels or fun stuff like you're talking about, short dopamine stuff. I don't know if you've seen some.
I
I've
have. I have.
created some really embarrassing videos on Instagram where I'm trying to enrage dopamine in people. But the problem is, again, like, magic is conventionally an art form that challenges your mind. Even the silliest magic trick is still challenging your mind on some level. So even if you do a silly magic trick, it's very hard for it to go viral on Instagram, because people on Instagram just want to relax or laugh and share witty things. And
Precisely.
if you see a magic trick, you won't share it. You'd start thinking, okay, how does this work? I don't know. Okay, let's move on. Like, it'll confuse you, but you would never share it. So you're
Okay.
figuring out how do you, because it